They built a 10-foot chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Across the only road to my ranch slapped a bright red sign on it that said, "Community property, no trespassing," and then had the nerve to fine me $5,000 for using my own driveway. That was the moment I realized the HOA wasn't just picking a fight, they were trying to erase me from my own land. But what they didn't know was that the cage they built wasn't for me. It was for them. I've lived on this ranch for over 30 years. My grandfather bought it, my father worked it, and my late wife Helen is buried on a hill that overlooks the lake. Every inch of that dirt road carries a memory my daughter Sarah's first shaky pony ride, the long drives Helen and I used to take at sunset. So when I pulled up that Sunday morning and saw steel posts set in fresh concrete, I felt like someone had driven a nail straight through my chest. Louise. Mallory. The self-appointed queen of the meadows at Stillwater HOA came strutting down the sidewalk with her clipboard clutched to her chest like it was a badge of honor. She smiled, that syrupy smile that made you feel like an idiot for even asking a question. "Morning, Jack," she said. "We've made some improvements." She slid a paper through the links and invoice for $5,000. According to her, my easement had expired years ago and I'd been trespassing. But for a modest annual fee, they'd consider letting me through. I crumpled that invoice in my fist and told her straight, "This is extortion." Her smile dropped. "That's a serious accusation, Jack. Pay or find another way home." Then she turned and walked off like she'd just handed down a royal decree. I thought maybe, just maybe, reason would win. I brought the original deed and survey maps to the next HOA board meeting. I stood there holding 50 years of proof, and Louise cut me off after 2 sentences. "Mr. Reynolds, we've already addressed this. You are in violation." Then her sidekick Denise started reading off a list of petty fines: my grass too tall, my well house unapproved, a rust stain on the barn roof. It wasn't a meeting. It was a public shaming. I left with my jaw tight and my heart pounding. The fines kept coming one after another, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Sarah tried talking to some of the younger residents, but they were too afraid of being the next target. One evening, I stood by the mailbox holding a letter from the HOA's attorney. 30 days to pay, or they'd take it to court and make the fence permanent. Sarah looked at me, her voice trembling. "What are we going to do, Dad?" I didn't have an answer. That helpless look in her eyes broke me in a way that fence never could. That night in my workshop, surrounded by maps and legal pads, I stared at the clutter and thought about quitting. Maybe I should just pay. Sell a few calves, dip into savings, bend the knee, and end it. For the first time, I wondered if I was the one being stubborn. Was I dragging my daughter through hell just to prove a point? My fight felt pointless, and the thought of Helen, how she found peace here, made the weight unbearable. But then I saw Louise's smug face in my mind, her pen tapping that clipboard like a gavel, and something shifted. My eyes fell on an old county survey map from 1958. I traced the road with my finger, and a detail I'd overlooked 100 times jumped out: a 10-foot utility and access strip deeded to my family. That fence wasn't just blocking me, it was sitting on my land. And, the kicker, the 20-year shared road agreement with the developer had expired 3 years ago. Legally speaking, every single car in that subdivision had been trespassing on me. I asked my neighbor Tom Alvarez, an old surveyor, to check my hunch. He set up his equipment, squinted at the markers, and finally drove a stake 6 feet inside their fence line. "That's your boundary, Jack," he said. "They built this on your property." My gut twisted, not with fear this time, but with cold resolve. That night, I started building. Steel posts, sunken concrete, an automated gate arm like you see at parking garages, a card reader, a payment kiosk. By the time Sarah printed the signs: "Private road, Reynolds Ranch, access fee required." I knew I wasn't defending anymore. I was taking control. The next morning, residents crowded the gate confused. Louise's SUV screeched to a halt. She stormed out, screeching, "You can't do this." "This is a violation," I just pointed at the sign. "Private property. Louise. Just like you told me." When the cops showed up, they glanced at my paperwork, sighed, and drove away. Her face went pale with rage. That should have ended it, but she doubled down. Cease and desist letters, threats to cut off my water and electricity rumors on social media painting me as a madman holding the neighborhood hostage. People who once waved at me in the grocery store now turned away. Even Bob Jenkins, the neighbor whose generator I'd fixed in the dead of winter, told me, "Jack, just stop. You're costing us money." His betrayal cut deeper than any legal notice. I hit rock bottom when Sarah found me cleaning my old service rifle. She asked, "Is this worth it?" We could use the back road. Why keep fighting? I looked at her and realized she didn't believe in me anymore. For a second, I didn't believe in me either. But I thought of Helen, of this land of every memory burned into that road. And I knew this wasn't about a road anymore. It was about survival. So, when the HOA announced an emergency meeting to resolve the crisis created by Mr. Reynolds, I prepared my final move. With help from an old army buddy turned real estate guy, I tracked down a forgotten parcel an out-of-state firm still owned the strip of land under Louise's fence. They didn't even know it existed. I offered them $5,000 cash. By the next day, the deed was mine. I walked into that meeting calm, holding one piece of paper. Louise gave a 15-minute speech about my illegal toll road and announced a $500 special assessment on every homeowner to fund the lawsuit against me. Groans filled the room. Then it was my turn. I clicked the projector showing the survey map, then the new deed with my name in bold. As of 3:15 this afternoon, I said the land your fence sits on belongs to me. This lawsuit you're funding. It doesn't exist. Silence. Then chaos. Residents shouting Denise, whispering furiously at Louise, her smug face draining of color. From the back of the room, Sarah's voice rang out, "And just so everyone knows, this meeting is being live-streamed." That was the kill shot. Neighbors began unloading years of resentment. The fines for kids' bikes for roses that weren't on the approved list for holiday lights. The room turned on her years of fear boiling over, and then the sheriff's detective walked in, badge glinting. "Ma'am, we've received reports of financial misconduct and falsified documents. We'd like you to come downtown." Louise stammered, "I am the president of this community." He just nodded. "That's exactly why we need to talk to you." As they led her out, the crowd clapped not loud but steady like nails in a coffin. Louise's face twisted, caught between rage and disbelief, but her reign was finished. That's where I'll stop, because the moment that car door slammed shut, the war was over. The woman who thought she could wall me out of my own home had been dragged out of hers in disgrace. And here's the lesson: when someone builds a fence to trap you, make sure they're not the ones locked inside.